Jinx.
We are live 364 days a year.
What are we doing here?
If Dom turns at SummerSlam, I'm shaving my moustache off. I told you, if that happens, it's going. My lip is cold because of a stupid bet that I made with YouTube.
Oh, good.
Wrestle's better than Daniel Bryan. Bryan Daniels. Better than Okada.
How do you not get sushi after Monday Night Raw?
Welcome to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, a show where a rotating cast of wrestling fans from around the world come and share and debate their opinions, with live comments from all of you shown throughout, as after all, fans are what makes wrestling so special. So sit back, grab a beverage and enjoy the show. In the internet wrestling community, there's a lot of people with a lot of controversial wrestling opinions. But there is one man here at Wrestling Republic whose opinions are more controversial than anyone else's. And today we are doing a new show. We are going to be responding to Ignacio's most controversial wrestling opinions. Good evening, wrestling fans. I'm Ben Allison here at Wrestling Republic, and today's show, it is going to be a fun one. It is Discount Candy Day. Apparently, I didn't see that one coming. And we've got Anthony Manzano and Fernando Zayas in the chat. Shout out to both of you. But also joining us today to give his most controversial wrestling opinions, we have Ignacio. How are you, Ignacio?
I'm great, Ben. I'm ready to get the party started, seeing what controversy I can still up. See, this should be a fun show. And I do have an opening statement, if you don't mind me, if I can go ahead and announce that or go ahead with that.
Go for it.
Is everybody good with that? So my name is Ignacio Pinales. I've been a contributor to Wrestling Republic since 2021. I've been an avid wrestling fan for 37 years, probably more longer than anybody of the age on this channel. I'm a proponent and championing realism in wrestling with the fundamental premise that every successful wrestling company is successful with the ability to engage the audience based on great storytelling. Over the years, this has been lost. More emphasis has been placed on acrobatics, bad humor, excessive violence, sex appeal, and vulgarity. This has clouded the minds of modern-day wrestling fans. Modern-day wrestling fans will tell you that wrestling is for everybody, and this is the premise that will cripple wrestling in the future. Wrestling is not for everybody. We've made it for everybody. And given that the great panel that Ben has assembled us for today, I can tell you that I will try my hardest to keep my patience, although during the broadcast that might falter.
Wow. Okay. That is an opening statement for sure. I'm excited for this today. But like you said, we have a great panel. We got Clark, Taylor here. We got... I'm not letting you talk yet, Clark. I'll give you that moment later on.
We've got the point.
What was the point to?
I don't know. I thought it looked cool on camera.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, also joining us today, we have Point, Angie Diva, and also Mary as well. It's going to be a fun one, guys. So without further ado, Ignacio, what is your first claim?
My first claim is that AEW's current booking will not be able to sustain itself, similar to the Attitude Era. And what I mean by that is during the mid-90s, wrestling in general was stale. And, of course, Eric Bischoff led the charge in WCW and bringing in the NWO and brought realism to wrestling. Vince McMahon countered that, and the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars begin. Now, with everything that Vince Russo, Vince McMahon, Eric Bischoff, and WCW and the WWE had on TV at the time, it was basically crash TV. And only emphasis was placed on a niche audience, the 18 to 35 demographic at the time. Nothing was focused towards the preteen or children, which at that time it worked. Over time, though, the audience got older. They got more mature. Parents paid more attention to the product. Advertisers were paying more attention to the product. So WWE had to refocus, and hence we got the PG era or PG-13 era. The problem with AEW is their booking now is kind of similar to the Attitude Era, and they put a lot of emphasis on, vulgarity, sex appeal, extreme violence. And I think over time, that's not going to work. The audience is going to get older. They're going to get more mature. Advertisers aren't going to be as kind to Tony Khan and the company. And Tony Khan's going to have to switch up his booking philosophy, which he can't do. He only knows one philosophy, and that's whatever he thinks of. And he won't be able to dial back the content that he has in order to please a wider range of audience. The audience that he has is good. He's going to lose the audience he has. They're going to get older, more mature. He's going to have to try to appeal to in the future to a network that's going to want to carry his product. But because of the booking that he has now, they're not going to be able to get a big time network. They're going to falter just like TNA, and they're going to end up on a platform that nobody's really going to pay attention to. And he can pump as much money as he wants into the product, right, to keep it alive. But it's just not going to be sustainable. It's not going to be as popular as it is. They are going to lose their audience.
Well, a controversial one to kick things off. Clark, what is your response to that?
Man, this is a hanging breaking ball. So the people that watched the Attitude Era, as you mentioned, like us, 30s, 40s, and beyond, that have been watching wrestling their entire life, have now had children and are introducing them to that. Yes, times have changed. The social constructs, as far as society is concerned, have changed. It isn't the Attitude Era, but an alternative product hasn't existed since the Attitude Era, and that's what drove viewership during that time. One dominant company was not beneficial ever. It wasn't. An alternative product in AEW, whether you like everything from a booking perspective or not, is the best thing that has happened to this industry. It shot a money cannon through this industry when it came to be in 2019, because there's finally a challenger brand for the first time in 20 years, and WCW wasn't interested in anything other than a corporate vendetta. That wasn't wrestling related. This is wrestling related. So I don't have an issue with AEW's booking or any of that, the way that they've gone about being a challenger brand, because they continue to run arenas, they continue to get TV deals, and they will continue in the future. Here's the best part. People that grew up AEW fans now, guess what product they will introduce to their children if it still exists? AEW, the same way that WWE was introduced following the Attitude Era to many other children. And from a marketing perspective, I'm not worried about it because it's all pretty cyclical here. I don't think we're in nearly that much trouble, nor do I think AEW has caused any trouble when it comes to wrestling. If anything, it's only been a benefit.
I mean, fair enough. Mary, what's your perspective?
Well, I am in partial agreement there to someone who's been consistently watching AEW for just about nearly a year now since I joined Wrestling Republic. I know there's a difference. There's a difference in layout. There's a difference in match cards. There's a difference in certain spots during said matches that, yes, the blood may be scary, but to those of my age and higher, that's kind of something we want to see. We don't necessarily want to see the same repetitive storylines, the same repetitive move sets between certain talents. AEW brings kind of the different aura, as most youth would consider now, to say the least. It's important. It's important as a money standpoint, very important. As a competitive company to all the other indie promotions, let alone WWE, I see no worry for All Elite Wrestling for another 17 years, for years to come.
Well, there we have it. And what about you, Angie? What's your perspective?
So I think both points between Clark and Mary, I'm noticing that I do agree with what they said on that. The big thing for me is the storytelling. AEW has this way of being able to show, don't tell, which is something that WWE has actually struggled with in recent history. And those that would actually pay attention to that would be those in my age group and higher. You put something like that in front of a kid, they're like, oh, I'm not worried about story. I'm worried about like this cool thing that this wrestler did or how cool that wrestler looks. Like, it's all about the appeal to children after a while, and that's what's actually getting their attention the most. Whereas
I
like
don't
the
think so.
detail is the things that we actually pay attention to. Kids are simple. Like they see something cool, they like it. But like, they're not going to look at the details like that. Not like us.
I think that is a terrific point, especially what you said about show, don't tell. You are right. If you're a kid, the simple things, you'll just enjoy it. But if you're an adult, there is little minor details which you have to be, you have to pay attention to understand. You get rewarded for that. Whereas, as Fernando says in the comments, sometimes he feels that WWE thinks that he's 12 years old and he appreciates how AEW books for older people like himself. But number one agrees with Ignacio on the extreme violence that AEW goes too far. Meanwhile, DCX Warlord is asking where you see the sex appeal in AEW, Ignacio.
Can I respond to this real quick?
Go for it.
So overall, so the thing I think I'll use this as an example. So everybody here is aware what blue humor is. The use of sex, vulgarity. The use of blue humor is the use of sex. It's the use of sex, vulgarity, bad language, all that stuff. So the reason why I respect WWE, the reason why I respect WWE more, and I always will, is because they're not needed to use sex, vulgarity. They still do, but not to the point that AEW does. AEW is on a weekly basis. They don't need to use extreme violence all the time, vulgarity, sex. So I think that AEW kind of appeals, and this probably be my most controversial comment, is it kind of appeals to the degenerative audience. Like the audience of degenerates that are bloodthirsty, they want to see sex all the time and all that good stuff. That's on a weekly basis, and I think that's what's gonna get old. And hold on real quick here. So I think, let me ask you all this. Let me ask you this a quick question. And I think, would you be more comfortable taking your child to an AEW pay-per-view or a WWE pay-per-view or an AEW show in general or a WWE pay-per-view or show?
For me, WWE, but to the point which Fernando makes
there you go.
You've got to pay, there you go. That's got to pay your mortgage to attend a WWE event, whereas
that's the future of the industry. That's the future.
How can you point to the Attitude Era in the same breath as what built the current industry, and say the same, like that? There's issues with. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was a child and I went to those events. I was at 99 Rumble when it was too many chair shots, and we did a whole documentary about how Mick Foley should have not done it and all of that. I was there. I was in the crowd as a kid. Did it deeply affect me the rest of my life or traumatize me? Absolutely no. Come on, man. It's entertainment, right? Like everyone saw a rated R movie Too Young on accident, flipped to the wrong channel one time. We live in the internet era these days. Everyone's Googled the wrong thing, clicked the wrong link, clicked the wrong pop-up, whatever it may be. And it is what it is. We can protect children as much as we want. I don't think anything AEW's ever done has been so egregious that it would over the top traumatize a child. I think that's we're grasping at straws there. Like, listen, I get blood is scary and things like that or whatever, but like, go watch The Walking Dead. That's like, if you look at demographics, that's as gnarly and crazy as anything. We're talking apocalyptic stuff, and the demographics wise, kids watch that show. So it's like, I think in way more than you would expect.
Yes,
it's actually freaky.
Yes.
It's actually freaky how high the numbers are.
I'm a big Walking Dead guy. I wouldn't watch.
No, that's why I use it as the example. Legitimately, Ben, is
I've got a photo of Negan on my wall there.
Yeah, there you go. See, he is a Walking Dead guy. He had to prove it too.
Yeah, I had to.
Bless you, Ben.
But you can see what Tony Storm does, like on a weekly basis. Hangman drinking blood on pay-per-view, or who was it? Like, you don't think that's detrimental to, a younger childlike audience?
Is it worse than what we grew up on in the Attitude Era? Not really.
Thank you, Clark.
Maybe could be. I would see. So, like, I didn't see Austin drinking like Rock's blood on TV, but
No, but we had a whole character that was eating worms and everything, and then take the worms from
He
his mouth
birthed
and
to a
put it
hand.
into his opponent's mouth. Come
They gave
on,
birth
we've
to a
already
hand.
done
Exactly.
this.
I'm not defending it either. What I'm saying is the prompt is that if we continue just like they did in the Attitude Era, maybe a little bit after, then AEW's book, it's not going to be able to sustain itself because Tony Khan's going to have to switch it like Vince McMahon did, and he can't do it because he can't book.
Oh, so that's the precipice of the argument there.
Mm.
Why
Did
would
say
he
that,
not
to be
be able
fair.
to adapt as a businessman, though? At the end of the day, considering we've seen him do it over multiple other businesses that he's ran.
Well, when he does, and then
before
when he does it,
AEW.
well, when he does do it, it's not good. Like, we've seen that with ratings.
I don't know. The Jaguars look pretty good this year. They had a really good hire head coach wise, and made the playoffs and pretty big season. And he's over there running analytics in that department. I think the
Right.
guy can adapt because he changed his strategy there.
Let's read out some comments then, and then before we move on to the next
All right.
one, because
Switch
DCX
prompts, yeah.
Warlord says that the only exception he'll make is the syringe moment. I mean, yeah, I agree with that as well. That was a step too far. And I do agree with Ignacio too on the fact that, there are some moments in AEW you would not see young kids watching, and maybe they're unnecessary.
Plastic
I don't
bag.
agree with him in terms of, I think they could get rid of those, and I think they'd be completely okay. But at the end of the day, that is Ignacio's thoughts. We've heard everyone else's. Let us know what you think in the comments. Anthony Manzano says that he disagrees because he feels AEW is too much to a niche audience. How is that going to last before you turn off your hardcore audience? I'll say this, actually. I went to one of the biggest pubs in South Wales on Saturday night. And do you know what was playing in there? AEW Dynamite. I was stunned. Anyway, up next, Ignacio, what's your next take?
My next claim or my next prompt is that Steve Austin was the best thing to happen to WWE, but the worst thing to happen to babyfaces. And what I mean by that is, I'll go ahead and start it off, is that, at the time, of course, going back to pre-Attitude Era, is that WWE needed to change. Everybody thought the Hulk Hogan era had ended. Of course, it ended. Everybody was looking for something different, a new type of babyface. So the anti-hero was born. Stone Cold Steve Austin took off, gave us the Attitude Era, and then WWE wrestling had anti-heroes, in the past. Dusty Rhodes, at one point you could consider him an anti-hero, and so on. There's been others that have been cool heels that could be considered as anti-heroes, but Steve Austin really took it to the next level. Problem with that is, and the first victim of this was John Cena, because going in from the Attitude Era into the PG era, if you want to call it, or PG-13 or ruthless aggression era, is that Vince McMahon got behind John Cena. He said, this is going to be the next face of my company. And for the most part, everybody was behind John Cena. But people of my generation paused and said, hey, wait a minute. Well, he's not Steve Austin. He's promoting hustle, loyalty, and respect. And he's not drinking beer. He's not shooting the finger. He's not, cussing. He's not using vulgarity. You know what I mean? So wait a minute. We don't want this guy. We want our anti-hero back. So we've been programmed, the wrestling audience has been programmed to think that, our hero needs to be the anti-hero. We need Steve Austin on our lives. And then the modern day wrestling fans, no, we need somebody who does acrobatics. So what does WWE do? Because WWE was really the only major company during that time. They're like, you know what? Well, for the people that don't like John Cena, they think he's too hokey. You know what? Here's Batista. You know what? Here's Undertaker. And we're going to bring Shawn Michaels back for some nostalgia. And then he had a good run. But the only problem, you know what? So who's our top guy? Who really is the face of the company? Well, you know what? Let's make 2 shows, and let's make 2 world titles, and then let's make a United States title. So what that did was it diluted the product and the audience so much that, you know what? Who's going to main event WrestleMania? Well, now we'll have two night WrestleManias, and the milquetoast babyface will main event night 1, and then the anti-hero will main event night 2. To me, in my opinion, it's diluted the product so much. Modern day wrestling fans just do not understand what makes a good babyface, a true babyface, and what makes a true heel. And that's one of the issues plaguing wrestling today, is that you got so much, there is no really one face of the company that everybody gets behind to lead a generation and lead an era, and that's part of the problem.
What's your response to that, Clark?
So, look, I find that fascinating because I think, first off, social constructs led to Stone Cold Steve Austin. In the 90s, with corporate hierarchies and everything like it was, flipping off your boss was about as popular of anything that you could do. That's what made grunge cool. That's what made MTV a thing. That's what made a lot of things in the 90s. And that's what made Stone Cold Steve Austin. Striking while the iron's hot from a storytelling perspective makes not only logical sense, it makes perfect sense. As we found unity and stuff, especially in the US, coming out of 9/11, the rise of Cena years later, hustle, loyalty, respect, and representing that kind of stuff made perfect sense. They're different. I hear you on milquetoast versus whatever, white meat babyface versus tweener versus anti-hero. I think from a storytelling perspective, we would never judge a television show or a movie this way. It's a social construct we're built in wrestling to put things in a box. You're this or you're that. And you can be in the middle. I have zero problem with what Stone Cold Steve Austin in the 90s contributed as a tweener, if you'd like to call him that, a loner. Remember, the odds were stacked against him at all times. He did everything a traditional babyface would do. DX and Mike Tyson, the corporation and all the lackeys. Every single rivalry he was in with The Rock, with anyone else, the numbers were stacked against Austin, whether you think he's a tweener or not. He did all the traditional babyface stuff during the prime of his babyface runs.
Very interesting response, Mary.
Well, again, we're talking about a time era that I was not existent for, literally. I was a late 90s kid. So to join into what Ignacio was bringing up in the quote unquote PG era, it was a fascinating era. Yes. Did it bring out a lot of different aspects to what a true babyface was? Yes. But at the same time, there was only one true babyface in the quote unquote PG era, and that is Mr. John Cena. All the kids, we were talking about the kids in the last topic. I'm going to bring the kids into this topic too. If there were any kid in the PG era that was not walking around with jorts and a t-shirt with their gold on their wrists or their knuckles, what were you doing? What were you doing? I feel like Steve Austin, he wasn't really the tribal holder to what's a true babyface, let alone what's a true anti-hero, because did it start a lot of kind of a domino effect after that? Yes, but I see no issue to it. That's how the company is going to expand for the next, again, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, maybe long after we're all gone.
Fair enough. Again, Angie, what about you?
So to play off of what Mary and Clark was saying, like the anti-hero of Stone Cold was just simply the most relatable type of character that was created because of the fact that we had the working man being so defiant against his boss, being like, screw you and all that. Like that was the main reason as to why we liked Stone Cold as much as we did. He was relatable. He was basically all of those intrusive thoughts that we had that we wish that we could have done with our boss and everything, but we couldn't because, we had to keep a job. Like he's getting paid to go ahead and be this type of way towards his boss, which is great. Another thing being that John Cena is basically your textbook, hey, kiss the babies, world peace and all of that. He was our Superman. He was the PG era Superman, just like how Hulk Hogan was does he count as golden era? Is it golden era that I'm thinking of?
With Hogan, yes.
Okay, cool. So Hogan was the golden era Superman, and then the PG era, we had John Cena. John Cena basically went ahead and did all the things just the same as Hulk Hogan did. He was on the cereal boxes, he was on the commercials, he was everywhere as a baby face should. That's what we had there. But because of that, he became less and less relatable because of the fact he was just basically being that goody two shoes, whereas Stone Cold didn't give a single heck to other than just being like, you know what, I'm here to just get my paycheck, drink a beer, and call it a goddamn day. I have been waiting for that point to come up at some point because I was ready.
I
can I
mean,
respond to this
fair
real
enough,
quick?
Archie. You can, but I do want to read out a couple of comments first because we have
ahead,
got Anthony saying, wouldn't you consider Roman and Rhea in that aspect the anti-hero type babyface, or are they just themselves? And I'll let you respond to that in a second. Pedro saying it's a soap opera. Donnie is saying that Stone Cold says that if people think that he's a tweener, they don't know who he is because he was a badass, but his character was working for the fans. So in other words, he was a baby face. Arrive, raise hell, and then leave. But what's your response to that, Ignacio?
My response is that, look, it did work for the time, but eventually what I'm saying is eventually that was going to get stale, and everything gets stale, right? Austin eventually would have got stale. I think they turned him heel, tried to turn him heel too early. If they would have waited, then we would have been talking about Steve Austin, also one of the best heels of all time, but they turned him too early. So what happened was when they tried to revert back to, well, we need somebody Hulk Hogan like now, because now we're worrying about advertisers. We've gotten too vulgar. You know what I mean? We need to go back to what worked for us before. When they tried to make that transition, the audience was already programmed to, well, no, we want this guy who's throwing the middle finger, drinking the beer. We don't want a Hulk Hogan anymore. We don't want. So it's like, so what I'm trying to say is that, okay, we'll make multiple baby faces, multiple personalities. We'll have our anti-hero, which today you can probably say that's probably CM Punk, right? And then we have Cody Rhodes, who's the milquetoast baby face, who's like our Hulk Hogan, our John Cena. The issue is you dilute the audience too much, because at the crux of it, at the base of it, what draws money is a 100% baby face that everybody can get behind, which should be Cody Rhodes. But again, the modern day fans don't understand what a good heel, what a good baby face is against a monster evil heel. That's the premise of it. That's the crux of it.
I could not.
I'm winding you up. I just say
chill out,
because you're
sir.
his biggest hater.
But like, genuinely, like this is all a construct. The idea that like we have to be convinced that the modern day babyface is good, or that the audience is being controlled by creative to that extent, is absurd to me. Stone Cold Steve Austin happened organically. He cut a promo he barely was supposed to, and on a night he wrestled 2 matches against Jake the Snake Roberts to become what he did.
We do have to move on to the next take. We're going to have to go through this one a little bit faster. But Ignacio, what's your next take?
Well, this one will be pretty quick, but I mean, it's social media wrestling fans are the worst wrestling fans. Now, let me tell you what my perspective on what a social media wrestling fan is. A social media wrestling fan is a highlight reel wrestling fan. I have a lot of friends, or some friends, who claim to be wrestling fans, but, you know, ask them, hey, did you like this segment on Raw? Or did you like this segment on SmackDown? Did you see the pay-per-view? Blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no, I only saw the highlights, and it looked really good. Man, that was awesome. Dude, you didn't see the whole show. You didn't see the whole match. I have a friend who's an avid AEW fan. Man, it's awesome. Great moves, all that stuff. I'm like, dude, did you watch the show? The show was terrible. The show's awful. The match was awful. You know, it's kind of like, see it recently. Excuse me. I went to go see Predator Badlands. On the previews, trailer is awesome. Awful movie. Woke BS. Same thing with Superman. Superman on the trailer. I was telling myself when Superman came out, the trailer first came out, I'm like, this is $1 billion movie. This movie is going to make $1 billion, and Marvel better be careful because they're in trouble. It comes out, garbage, trash, worst Superman movie ever. You can watch the highlights of anything. You can't go by the highlights of anything when it comes to football, sports, basketball, UFC. and tell them watch the highlight and say, yeah, that was a great match. No, doesn't make any sense. Again, something else that pollutes modern day wrestling fans' minds is that the premise that they can watch highlights and make a judgment on whether something is good as bad as watching it on Instagram or social media, TikTok, or what have you.
Very interesting opinion, that one, actually, because I do think that's probably maybe the one which makes you think the most out of the three you presented so far. Clark, what's your perspective?
Yeah, for time's sake, I was a lapsed fan in the late 2010s, and I would consider myself a social media fan. So you win this one, Ignacio. Man, yeah, that's tough. I did watch mostly just highlights from like 2015 to 2019. But when it comes to that, I will say that I do think it's important to have eyeballs on the product on social media when it comes to wrestling.
Sure.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I haven't given my opinions on any of these. I'm going to quickly do it on this one because you're making me think, Ignacio, here. I think the bigger issue is people who only watch highlights or only, glimpse through something, then giving an opinion on it. And I don't think that's just a wrestling issue. I think that's a wrestling issue. I think that's just a social media issue, because I was watching something recently about how a lot of music reviews nowadays are done off one listen, and how that never used to be the way, and how a lot of rappers nowadays are feeling like, they've got to create something which is perfect first listen, compared to a lot of things where a lot of masterpieces, if they were reviewed on first listen, wouldn't be considered masterpieces. It's because over time they got that following. So it is a very interesting point. Mary, I want to get yours.
Clark hit the nail on the head. At one point, and I think for all of us, we were a highlight reel wrestling fan. I was one of those until Kofi Mania, because where it started, where it came to, how it was built, it made me actually go sit down on the couch, turn on the TV, and actually sit there and watch the entire pay-per-view. Because it drew the eyes, it drew the attention, and it drew the shock factor. The oh my gosh, this is entertainment. This is entertainment again. I don't need to go on Instagram and look on highlight reels. I don't need to go on YouTube and go on the WWE YouTube channel and see the highlights for Raw or the highlights for SmackDown, NXT. It's everywhere. Being a social media fan for anything, whether it be sports, wrestling, UFC, for anything, it is 100%, shout out Kit Wilson, toxic.
I mean, fair enough there, and also loving the Kit Wilson shout out. We've got a couple of comments I want to read out in a second, but before we do, Angie, what's your take?
I'd like to add actually to that, and it isn't just the social media fans, unfortunately. And it's also sometimes older fans. Wait, before you grab your pitchforks, hear me out. There are times where we would reminisce about certain pay-per-views and everything, and the deciding factor was like that one match, when really the entire card was mediocre at best. And a lot of us don't really realize that until we go back to watch them. And I'm saying that more so because I am also guilty of this. Like,
Yeah.
I thought that there were certain pay-per-views that were really, really great. I went back to watch them because I was like, oh, I'm so excited to watch it again. And then I remembered, oh, it was only good because of that one match. The only thing that I could take away from it was that one match. And then like everything else was just like a blur. Looking at you, Royal Rumble.
That's good though.
2015. Because, oh boy. Like, taking out all of the noise and everything from the crowd of booing Daniel Bryan and everything from that one, the Rumble wasn't that bad. We only made it that bad because our favorite person didn't go ahead and last longer in the thing. And then on top of, keep it together. Okay. On top of that, getting Gold Dust music hitting and seeing the Shattered Dreams production as we're still grieving. was, I don't know if they did that on purpose or if they went ahead and it just so happened to be a happy little accident, because that honestly pretty good, but at the same time, how dare?
Oh my gosh. Well, I want to quickly read out some comments before we move on to the next one. Donnie says, is this guy ribbing us? The Superman movie was outstanding. I enjoyed it too, Donnie. And Fernando says the same thing. I haven't seen Badlands. I don't know about that. Donnie says, casual fans are important to the survival of all industries. Attacking them is ridiculous. Meanwhile, DCX Warlord says, Kit Wilson would declare that Ignacio's takes are toxic. But
Absolutely,
Ignacio,
100%.
what is your final take of the day? Final claim.
My final claim is that in 20 years, everybody's going to realize that Gunther was the best heel of this generation. And I believe that Gunther is the best booked individual in wrestling today. Nobody's getting booked like Gunther. Well, the sad thing is that nobody realizes it. Gunther, taking over or eliminating Goldberg from the wrestling scene and retiring him, Gunther retiring John Cena, Gunther essentially retiring AJ Styles, and that's probably going to get ruined because AJ's probably going to wrestle again because he's not a man of his word. Gunther, I believe he's going to retire Rey Mysterio. I didn't think that's one that nobody's talked about. I think Gunther's going to retire Brock Lesnar. At least I hope he does. He's going to retire Chris Jericho. And we're on the crux of one of the greatest or best booked characters probably in wrestling history, but nobody sees about it. Everybody trashes it just because of the John Cena incident or the John Cena retirement. That was very geniusly booked. People were saying, or a lot of people say online that, well, Gunther didn't need it. Yes, Gunther needed it, right? Because Gunther is probably the best booked or the best heel in the business today, and he needed that win with John Cena. Now, the way the match played out with John Cena grinning at the end and so forth, I don't know about that, but I don't look at what happened necessarily in the ring. I look at the story and the booking, and the story and the booking is genius, very well played out, very good. Gunther's 100% an ace in the ring. He's 100% an ace on the mic. His booking is genius, and we're looking at one of the best heels probably being booked of all time. But everybody's worried about, well, the John Cena and AJ Styles, and people don't understand that the way you're feeling towards Gunther, that's the way you're supposed to feel. You're supposed to boo him and hate him because he's taking all of our heroes away. So instead of trashing the booking, appreciate it, because in 20 years you're going to realize it if you're still watching wrestling, or if wrestling still even exists. Right? Same thing happened with John Cena. People didn't appreciate John Cena until the last 5 years of his career because they realized, oh yeah, Vince McMahon is right. We should have went with that guy. Same thing with Gunther. He's the best booked person in wrestling. Wrestling needed a pure heel, and that's Gunther. The only other people that are actual pure heels are Logan Paul and Dominic Mysterio.
Clark, your response.
So you said the best booked heel in this era, and I might agree with some of that, because he had to be booked to be so good. You'd have to book him to defeat wrestlers of the caliber of John Cena and AJ Styles to make Gunther so relevant. But also remember, MJF exists during this era, and it doesn't really matter how you book him because he's the best heel of this era, and it's not even close. That's a joke. By comparison to Gunther, that's ridiculous. Gunther is immensely talented. Remember when he was Walter and he was putting on matches of the year, and everybody really loved him if you dug deep enough on the internet, you could find someone that had him rated the way that he is presented now. And so, as you mentioned, the key word there, booked. Yes, he is the best booked heel for sure. He's been booked the strongest, but is he the best heel? Absolutely not. Because MJF is better than him, and you know it.
Okay. Can I respond to that real quick, Ben? Can I respond to that?
Real quick.
Real quick. Okay, the only issue with that is that you put MJF in WWE, and he's not MJF anymore. He's The Miz. You handcuff
That's
him.
why he's
You
not
handcuff
going
him.
there.
You take it away.
Oh,
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so you put MJF in WWE. MJF's not going to nowhere near as popular as he is now. Gunther is making it work in WWE as a
What if
true
the-
heel.
but what
Without-
if? Now,
without-
hear me
with
out.
the handcuffs.
What if there was a place where he could be MJF and it would work? Like hypothetically speaking, maybe they do like a Wednesday night show and a Saturday night show, like
Oh my
quarterly
God.
pay-per-views. Maybe they started in
Right.
like 2019 with Cody Rhodes.
I do want to pass it to Mary and Angie as well, guys. But Donnie says, who needs 20 years? He's the best in the business now. Fernando says Gunther is the
There
second
you
best behind MJF. DCX Warlord says Ethan Page and Ricky are the biggest natural heels. Well, Donnie says MJF's not the best heel.
Donnie
because
doesn't like
every
comedy.
single promo he works, he laughs. And he enjoys being lovable. That's not a heel. Wow, wow, wow. I mean, Mary, what's your perspective on all of this?
I mean, I'm sorry, a guy that can only really drop one-liners and then choke someone out and leave, that's not really a true definitive 100% best heel in the business. He's the best heel in WWE. In WWE, yes, no doubt about it. The Super Cena fan is saying it simple. Cena deserved to lose to Gunther. I'm saying it now. But 20 years down the road, am I going to still say Gunther's the best heel in the business? We're going to evolve. We're going to have so many other people that
Of
might
this time.
do it of this time, yes. But will Gunther still be of that scary caliber? Or will he even be in wrestling at that time? Will he retire? Who knows? But I'd say 20 years is a little bit of a far stretch. If we maybe said 10, yeah, sure. He's definitely the best heel currently, but for WWE, that's it.
Well,
it's in the
what about
business.
you, Angie? What's your take?
So we're just going to pretend like as if the legend killer Randy Orton didn't like walk for Gunther to run. Are we just gonna, put that all the way off to the side? Because I'm sitting here like it's the same thing. The only difference is that
He's doing it better.
personally Randy did it better.
No.
He did it
Yes.
first.
Go ahead, make your
Because
point.
there's a psychological thing about it that Randy was able to do a lot better with the legend killer thing, especially and then of course you had 09 Randy and okay. But like as far as for this era, currently I can see where you're coming from with that. But like we've had the legend killer thing before. We had that with Randy Orton, and we also had it very poorly, might I ask, with Chris Jericho. Jericho tried to do the same thing, and it just I don't know. I think it might have fallen just a little flat after watching it back. But like overall, like as far as for currently. Oh, I don't want to agree with Ignacio on anything like
Ooh,
this.
some agreement here. I mean, look, I
Starting to
think
hear
you
some
can make
agreement.
this point, but I mean, I
There's
will say
nobody
this
that's
to
made a
Donnie's
valid
real
point to any of
quick.
these claims.
Shoot.
He says that Gunther is the best heel in the business because our anger confirms it, and the fact that we all like MJF confirms it. I think we all like Gunther. I think the issue with Gunther is that
I
a
never
lot of the
said I
heel
didn't
heat
like
he
Gunther.
gets-
That's having your cake and
a
eating
lot
it
of
too.
the heel, a
Never
lot of
said I
the
didn't like the guy.
a lot of the hate which Gunther gets, the heat actually goes towards Triple H, not Gunther. I think
can't
that
be- it
might be
can't
the
be-
bigger issue here.
It,
There's no
it,
question
it can't be at the same time you're allowed to respect great heel work so that you actually like the work itself and understand that it's frustrating. Like we're not allowed to suspend disbelief like that. Are we no longer incapable of that? That's where I'm thrown.
Right. That, though, guys, does bring us to the end of this show. Let us know if you enjoyed it, if you want to see us do more of these shows where Ignacio gives his controversial opinions. Thank you to Clark, thank you to Mary, thank you to Angie, and thank you all the way over there to Ignacio as well. We will see you guys next time. Peace.